Guess what? I changed residence lately and have a more beautiful and commodious apartment on hand. Moving to another town in terms of the coronavirus has been a venturous enterprise, but I made it. And as many students in the current situation, I take my lessons virtually at the conservatory and therefore save a lot of time. Well, not a lot of, but enough to create some new videos on YouTube. I managed to beat the remake of Final Fantasy VII within 1 week. I have been curious as shit, but couldn't motivate myself to play it the first couple of days after the release. In Germany it was the 10th of April, I believe. But eventually I'm really happy got me to, because after Final Fantasy 15 and all the graphic reboots of 6, 8, 10, 12 and cash cows but not really satisfying titles like World of Final Fantasy, FF Mobius or whatever, this game touches my deeply nostalgic heart. It carries me off back into the conflicting world of Midgar and is still full of innovations that don't destroy my childish memories I conserve since its predecessor, but makes this game world seem even more livelier. For unanswered questions and the lack of character portraits are being compensated in this remake. It tries to make the one and only catching story plot even more catchier and plausible. I was having lots of fun again with the game of this franchise for a long time, and I'd like to share my experiences with you guys. So this is something like a review, but I don't presume to make an assessment. Before I begin, be aware of spoilers. The first amendment that jumps right into our faces when we literally watch the new FF7 is the graphics. Let's be real here, guys. It's not like we've never had a closer impression of how our favorite heroes look like since famous spin-offs like Crisis Core, Advent Children, and Dirge of Cerberus. But these titles showed us that cinematics are not everything. In fact, the remake gets along pretty well without too many CGI scenes. The opening was fantastic. It was as we remembered the intro and the bombing mission, but after that there are plenty of short cutscenes in which people talk or fight or dance. But that's totally enough to get a good story rolling without giving the players the feeling they rather watch a movie than playing a video game like it was with FF13, although I love 13. Square Enix even allowed themselves a little friskiness in character design, like the drapes of Tifa's skirt or the hemline of Aerith's pink dress. Girls notice these kind of things. And I liked it all over. It makes me think these characters never die. They're not figures of a game in 1997, they're just figures of a game, and they deserve a makeover, like any time. Provided that they don't change too much.
You're not real. You're dead.
For example, one thing that pisses me off is that Square couldn't bring George Newbern to dub Sephiroth. Seriously, nobody else has ever been voice acting my beloved villain since the very first scoring of Sephiroth. And just when the remake comes out, Square can't get his ass into the studio. I'm afraid I'm sorely disappointed here. I'm sorry for Tyler Hoechlin. Oh, God, sounds German. He may be a talented voice actor, but I stick to George Newbern. Okay, back to perfect achievements. In 1997, the 3D graphics was unbelievably awesome. The step from 2D in FF6 and the somehow identical scheme of RPGs of that era, how cities, dungeons and world maps are being organized, to a fully various adventure where even in the dreary solitude of the slums, no shack or snack bar looks like the one of the sector you've just been in, was huge. There was just this peculiarity of VII where a playground or a tavern with a clogged toilet got stuck in our minds, which makes everything so likable. The original already mastered this quest, so what about a remake here? Of course, it retained this concept with a surprisingly high accuracy. For instance, the secret shop robot on Wall Market where Cloud almost got shot looms again, or the motorcycle race.
You passed the test.
Based on that, Square came up with a bunch of supplements, besides new areas between the single sectors of Midgar, wide open to explore. An aspect quite remarkable in my view was the interaction between NPCs.
You're that former soldier, aren't you?
There are a few of them who don't necessarily push the story, but happen to appear several times, like the so-called teacher of Leaf House, which secretly works on becoming a dancer at Honeybees.
What are you doing here?
Who knows why she's keen on having that stupid sting part stick into her butt. As I'm saying, these NPCs are not essential to the plot or side quests or even hilarious cutscenes, but their brief appearance makes me feel like I really walk around a real city with real citizens. In contrast to that variety, the side quests are mostly time-wasting because the slight ones are pretty juvenile, like chasing after some kittens, and the cool ones are not a hell of a lot due to the limited spots where you realize, okay, a combat could possibly take place right here. The remake had such great ideas of exciting battles like the Colosseum, but you never knew when you could make time for leveling up, and according to my taste, there could have been more small areas you could use for training and which you could return to as much as possible. Crisis Core's mission catalog demonstrated how that works. I didn't need so many potion vendors and health benches. I was always searching for an opportunity to maximize my weapon and material skills, because the battle system has the infamous factor of additivity, and that's what we come to next. At first, I was pressing a certain button in hopes to rush right towards the enemy and smash him with my Buster Sword. I was a little confused when I recognized I have to run all the way to the enemy and then strike. I guess I was used to Noctis's impulse attack all along, what's been able to dart for enemies even from far, far away. In the remake of VII, you have to always focus on one target, and sometimes when it's flying around, like some drones or an aerial combatant, your attacks, even the special ones, won't reach it on a satisfactory level unless you try it by a range attack or use magic instead. That strategy is quite realistic, but can get annoying. Despite that little stumble in the combat speed, the battles are fast, smooth, and diverse. You can easily switch party members, although I regret that you cannot choose the person you run with in general. Each one has their own valuable strengths, and it does make a difference which one you pick depending on the opponent and the situation. Even Aerith made it to honestly become a good party member. I don't enjoy fighting with magicians, though I used Aerith relatively often. Evading and parrying are designed to being applied sensibly and in time. You already know everything about materia if you've beaten the predecessor, so I love the new concept of weapon points. Because FF7 ceases canvassing shop after shop, looking for the best weapon and get rid of the current one, it's up to you how you boost your Nox and swords, and the game forbids you to sell them, telling you that each one might come in handy. Because of that, leveling up was so much fun and not boring at all. I was addicted to achieving new points to maximize my weapons and all the different materia. Gathering all together was so much fun in many ways, not only in battle skills, but also collecting Mogrim medals or even the chip cards in one mission, which you needed to sliver parts of that big bombing machine from Shinra. All these collecting jobs quickly rewarded your hustle and therefore didn't seem unneeded and whet my appetite for more. What I liked of the gameplay was that you can run without getting weary, and like the exhaustion advice in FF15, climbing up ladders and slipping through narrow gaps was a bit tardy and out of the flow if you've just been running so nicely, but that's okay, I suppose. Even if this is not exactly what you would call an open world, but at least within your sector you're free to explore many areas unless you're not glued to a person you are made to follow at the moment. I missed the ability to jump and was surprised that Square didn't involve it into the gameplay, because even if the story is pretty tight and doesn't allow too many options to freely walk around and take off for a while, jumping and being able to climb on top every rock or roof still feels more like an open world. Yet it offers us the choice of answer, at least sometimes, and again it doesn't always carry consequences which answer you give. Only the cutscenes could change, which was relieving for me to know, because I prefer playing without an official game guide and hate everything that's impossible to know if you're not involved into the deeper secrets of the developers. Even if you've made a wrong choice in one chapter and painfully regret this, you get the opportunity to repeat a chapter after you've made it through the first walkthrough. From that, I appreciated the division into chapters, for it removes the pressure of obtaining every single special item and exploring every dirty backstreet in Midgar within one pass. The minigames were refreshing, each one works differently, some challenge your precision, others your reaction speed, so there's something for everyone and they're funny. Here is the most relevant aspect of this list. What did Square do to the story? It's fabulous anyway, so it was pretty easy to mess things up. I have been concerned about that in the first place, because too many improvements in graphics and depiction can lower the game flow. Fortunately, my concern was unfounded. We get to know the crew of Avalanche a lot better, for you experience the backstories and the origins of Biggs, Wedge, and Jesse. Some cutscenes made the deep relation between the characters clearer to me. For example, Tifa's and Barrett's friendship, or Barrett and Marlene, or the exciting background of Aerith being an ancient. Cloud seems a little lost, like he wouldn't belong anywhere, and this is a very strong point due to his amnesia, which gains way more space and importance from the very beginning of the game. I like that very much. You take a closer look on the character's motivation, fears, and wishes, and still share the thrill along the main story, which is all about rebelling against Shinra exploiting the planet. At least on the one hand. The unsolved puzzle with the freaks in the dark robes chasing after Aerith and then emerging again and again without any hints what they could possibly want show us that more episodes are about to come, and I'm dying to know how the remake is going to continue from there on. Even so, there were parts that startled me that weren't quite what I had expected, not in a negative way though. I was freaked out by Chapter 11 and this mysterious ghost mission. I don't care whether they're actually trying to help Aerith or if the wind whistling through the dumb trains sounds like children playing. I was scared as hell. I saw a review before, and there was a woman who said that she would like to see the reaction of her certain scene because it was frightening. And all the while I was waiting for that scene because I thought, it's a Final Fantasy game. What's the worst thing that could happen? It couldn't be any scarier than those ghost ruins in the swamp of 12. But I was wrong. It wasn't only one scene in particular. Every detail in that chapter was scary. The trains, the mist, the enemies, the graffitis, everything. And I'm glad I don't have to repeat this. Another scene which really got me, beside the deaths of the Avalanche group, because we knew they're gonna be dying, wasn't even a cinematic, but a small incident where Aerith is looking for Marlene running through the burning Sector 7 and then suddenly meets the little girl whose cats were searching a few chapters before. She's alone and helpless and not important to the story. However, Aerith grabs the girl onto her arms and carefully carries her back to safety. The sweet and fragile flower girl changes into a motherly and big-hearted heroine who gets all dirty in a beautiful dress running around these burning ruins, but still doesn't shy away a minute from rescuing helpless people.
Are they gonna destroy our house?
I felt like Final Fantasy once again crossed a bridge between fiction and realism. And I think the remake of Final Fantasy VII is one step away, from becoming another one of the greatest JRPGs of all time. And I'm serious here, guys. I'm curious to learn whether you liked it or not, what you find fascinating, or if you have critical issues. Feel free to write down below, and what shall I say? Enjoy the game!